Huh. I think an interesting hand just went down, but I'm not sure. I'll get to it in a second. I'm going to make some specific comments and specific adjustments to ante games and whatnot. We're going to just talk about everything like we always do. I actually just went in and turned off full tilt sounds because they were being really loud and annoying. Okay, so as the theme, I'm going to emphasize 3-betting in position, emphasize opening in late position, not 3-betting out of position, and in general, not playing too many hands out of position. I think that you know, it's sort of, I've said it before, but it's sort of, you know, do as I say and not as I do. Sometimes I play too many hands out of position, and I know that it's not good that I play too many hands out of position. But I do it anyway sometimes. Sometimes it's just sort of to get my jollies off when I'm a little bored or something. This is a relatively interesting spot right here with I have a seizure and go for us. I'm a little go for us is a little nitty, but also well, he's not nitty necessarily to 3-bet in position for sure, but he's a little nitty in certain spots, but he's also a little over the top aggro in spots. Now I think that a fold is probably standard. I would definitely say that a fold is probably standard, but I think that with him 3-betting in position a relatively wide range, I would say 5-handed. And because of the fact that my hand is so pretty and plays so well, I think flatting is okay. The reason flatting is okay is because I have an absurdly tight range for my flat. I literally have like 9s or better, ace king, and sometimes ace queen. He probably expects me to 4-bet a lot of the time with ace king. So I have like 9s or better like 100% of the time here. Left hand side, literally, assuming he has no pure floats in his range, which I think is a pretty safe assumption. Again, this Jack 9-5 board over here on the right with Go For Us, he's not c-betting that light at all. And if he is c-betting a light, it's simply a huge mistake. So I suspect that he just had queens or better there 100% of the time, or there's some slight chance that he had, obviously a set of jacks. There's some slight chance that he had air, obviously, but it's extremely unlikely. On left-hand side, we don't beat anything. We don't beat 9-8. We don't beat aces full or 4s full. We don't beat, you know, top boat. There's absolutely, again, there's like no pure floats in his range. I mean, you can dick around on some flops, but ace 9-4, just his whole flatting range, there's just nothing that's really dicking around. It'd be a little bit more interesting of a hand if I had king of diamonds 10x or something, because then I'd have to decide whether or not I wanted to make what I guess I would call a suicide 2-barrel. And the reason I would call it a suicide 2-barrel is because it's not a good barrel spot, but it's a spot where just because my equity increased, I'm just going to barrel it anyways. I actually picked up a 5-10 video off camera, but I'd rather play 3-handed, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep playing these tables and talking about the 2 tables. And then if I bring this 5-10 table up, I got on a shit ton of lists because nobody would play with me. So I just, you know, don't feel too bad for me. There's a reason nobody will play with me. Anyway, so right hand side looks like this table is filling up a little bit. Excuse me, it's filling up a little bit. So hopefully it stays full and I can just keep playing these limits. There are some like suited connectors and offsuit face card hands that he's going to fold if I bet, and there's also some cards that he's going to fold if I 2-barrel. Like he might call the flop with ace jack and fold the turn. But I'd much rather set up a delayed bet, because then I can just rep a wider range. On the flop, he probably just assumes I have like my entire button opening range. But on the turn, he knows that there was a reason I checked back the flop. And I said this in my last video. It's just a very simple counter where when people know I don't c-bet much, they assume that I have something when I check back. So the simple counter is that you need to start having air when you delayed c-bet. Because you see, on the flop, he might check raise bluff sometimes because he thinks that my c-betting frequency is too high, which mine isn't, but a lot of regulars is. And I'm also A.E. Jones, so if he doesn't know me very well, then he might think that mine's too high. On the left, I'm going to think about what the fuck I'm supposed to do here. There's a chance that Sexy and D isn't really a regular because they're not bought in for 200 big blinds. Big Lug's opening a wide range. I think fold is a relatively standard play. I could make it like 117 and fold to a shove. If I had some sort of a stone cold solid read, I could make it 117 and call a shove. And the same would be said about ace-queen for the most part, except for that I would be making some sort of a play, whether it's flat or 4-bet call with ace-queen, much more often than I am with ace-jack offsuit. Whereas with ace-jack offsuit, I'm mostly just not doing anything exciting. I'm mostly just going to be a bitch and fold. And I'm okay with that. I don't really think that it's, I don't really think it's too big of a deal. Just got a completely random Skype message. Anyways, nobody I've ever heard of. Let me sign off Skype. Anyways, so I'm going to continue just 3-bet in position and not dick around too much. We're going to pay attention to who's doing what. On the left-hand side, we noted this big logs character open to 13 on the button. I mean, that can mean a lot of shit. It can mean that he's paying attention and watching my videos. It can mean absolutely nothing at all. It can mean that he's, actually trying actively not to get 3-bet. It can just absolutely mean anything. So we're going to need more information before we say, okay, this guy is, is a multi-tabling regular or whatever, and he's doing this, this, and that. Okay, now, as you guys may have heard me say before, this is definitely a good spot to check back on the right-hand side. A little bit of a loose open on the left. Do it anyways. On the right-hand side, usually I'm going to check this back. I had pocket jacks, and the flop came queen 7-5. However, for a guy that has just like 60 big blinds, and he limp called under the gun, I think it's extremely likely that this player is check calling 7x, check calling flush and straight draws. And that's what's really important, is that if he's check calling flush and straight draws, we should be betting all of our medium strength hands for value. Now, I was probably not bet folding, but I maybe should have been bet folding. So the bottom line is that a bet is just so plus EV because it's going to call with so much shit that it's just not, I don't even have to think about bet folding or bet calling yet. So although I'm going to have a plan 98% of the time, in this case I probably would have gone with some shit like timing or something. Right hand side, great spot to check back. Going to have a lot of 10s that I dominate in their range. So what I'm going to do is check back and try to hit a 9 specifically. Additionally, it does really hit their pre-flop range pretty hard. Alright, so now I hit what I would consider my jackpot card. This overbet is extremely likely to be a flush, which is trying to charge a 10, knowing that a 10 simply will never fold. But I can't really fold anyways because I have a straight flush draw and because I have the nut straight and not just a 10. So I'm obviously calling. There's just nothing else to it except that I'm calling. On the river, I make a jack-high flush, which improves my hand absolute value-wise, but obviously makes it worse relative value-wise, and there's really not even any hands that he can have that are, worse as far as, like, lower or whatever, as far as, like, lower flushes. So now, like, he can't even have, like, 5-6 of hearts is a fucking straight flush, and all those other connected hearts just don't exist. So I literally have a pure bluff catcher, and he's just not bluffing here. In fact, he's bluffing probably something like 0% here, especially when the river comes another heart, and the heart is very likely to have one high heart in my range, whether I have pair plus high flush draw, or just a naked ace of hearts, or all these bullshit hands. There's just a ton of hands I can have, they're going to call him. So even if the river would have bricked, there's a decent chance I'm folding, because there's just, his bluff frequency is just extremely low. It doesn't mean his bluff frequency should be high, especially since he perceives that I'm going to make a lot of hero calls. If he thinks I'm playing a video also where I might be making an abnormal amount of hero calls just to show you guys like what he's got, like sometimes I'd call that river and then he's going to show up with like ace-5 of hearts or whatever, and then it's going to be like, oh, I told you he had ace-5 of hearts, blah, blah, blah. So if there's a chance he thinks I'm making more hero calls and not necessarily playing as well as I can play. So because of all those things, and because I recognize the name, I'm sure UMD Tennis is some sort of regular or something that I've seen before or something. I don't know. Good hand to play multi-way, ace, deuce, or diamonds. So gonna go ahead and play it. Let them play around. Sometimes I let guys play around for a second. Let them think that I'm thinking about squeezing or thinking about folding or whatever. There's obviously no negative effects to just chilling out and taking a little bit longer to think in order